Hey everyone, welcome back to our channel. If you're new here, don't forget to hit that subscribe button and the bell icon so you won't miss our future videos. Let's get started. How do you handle JSON data parsing and extraction in Snowflake using SQL functions?
I use Snowflake's native JSON functions like parse_JSON, get_path, and flatten to efficiently work with semi-structured data. These functions allow for direct querying of JSON without pre-processing and support nested object navigation. Here's an example query.
Explain how to use Snowflake's time travel functionality with SQL functions.
I leverage the at and before clauses with timestamp functions to access historical data states. This is useful for data recovery, auditing, and point-in-time analysis without maintaining separate backup tables. Here's an example query.
How do you implement window functions for advanced analytics in Snowflake?
I use Snowflake's comprehensive window function support including row_number, rank, lag, or lead, and aggregate functions with over clauses. These functions enable complex analytical calculations like running totals, percentiles, and time series analysis. Here's an example query.
Describe how to use Snowflake's variant data type and related functions.
I utilize variant for storing semi-structured data with functions like to_variant, object_construct, array_construct, and type-checking functions. Variant provides flexibility for mixed data types while maintaining query performance. Here is an example query.
How do you handle string manipulation and text processing in Snowflake?
I use Snowflake's extensive string functions like regex_replace, split_part, trim, concat, and substring for data cleansing and transformation. These functions support regular expressions and Unicode for complex text processing requirements. Here's an example query.
Explain how to use Snowflake's date and time functions for temporal analysis.
I leverage functions like datehead, datediff, date_trunc, extract, and convert_timezone for comprehensive date or time manipulation. These functions handle time zone conversions, data arithmetic, and period-based aggregations efficiently. Here is an example query.
How do you implement conditional logic and case statements in Snowflake SQL?
I use case expressions, if functions, and coalesce for implementing business logic directly in SQL. These functions enable complex conditional transformations and null handling without requiring external processing. Here's an example query.
Describe how to use Snowflake's aggregate functions with advanced grouping.
I utilize functions like listAgg, array_agg, object_agg, along with grouping sets, rollup, and cube for sophisticated aggregations. These enable hierarchical reporting and complex data summarization in single queries. Here's an example query.
How do you handle array operations and manipulations in Snowflake?
I use array functions like array_construct, array_size, array_slice, array_contains, and flatten for working with array data structures. These functions enable complex array transformations and element-wise operations. Here is an example query.
Explain how to use Snowflake's mathematical and statistical functions.
I leverage functions like round, ceil, floor, mod, power, sqrt, and statistical functions like sdev, variance, core for numerical analysis. These functions support both basic arithmetic and advanced statistical calculations. Here's an example query.
How do you implement data validation and quality checks using Snowflake SQL functions?
I use functions like regex_like, try_cast, is_integer, is_decimal along with case statements to validate data quality and identify anomalies. These functions help ensure data integrity and flag problematic records. Here's an example query.
Describe how to use Snowflake's hash and encoding functions for data processing.
I utilize functions like hash, MD5, SHA1, SHA2, base64_ encode or decode for data security, deduplication, and encoding requirements. These functions support various hashing algorithms and encoding formats. Here's an example query.
How do you handle hierarchical data and recursive queries in Snowflake?
I use recursive CTEs with connect by or with recursive clauses to traverse hierarchical structures like organizational charts, bill of materials, or category trees. These enable complex parent-child relationship analysis. Here's an example query.
Explain how to use Snowflake's conversion and casting functions effectively.
I use try_cast, cast, TO_number, TO_date, TO_timestamp, and type-specific conversion functions for safe data type transformations. These functions handle type conversions with error handling and format specifications. Here's an example query.
How do you implement pivoting and unpivoting operations in Snowflake?
I use pivot and unpivot operators along with conditional aggregation to transform data between row and column orientations. This enables flexible data reshaping for reporting and analysis requirements. Here is an example query.
Describe how to use Snowflake sequence and identity functions.
I utilize SEQ1.nextful, SEQ8.nextful for generating unique identifiers, and identity columns for auto-incrementing primary keys. These functions ensure unique value generation across concurrent sessions. Here is an example query.
How do you handle null values and implement null-safe operations in Snowflake?
I use functions like coalesce, NVL, nullif, if null, and is_value for comprehensive null handling. These functions enable null-safe comparisons and provide default values for missing data. Here is an example query.
Explain how to use Snowflake's information and metadata functions.
I leverage functions like current_user, current_role, current_database, current_warehouse, along with result_scan and metadata functions for audit trails and dynamic query construction. Here's an example query.
How do you implement fuzzy matching and similarity functions in Snowflake?
I use functions like soundx, edit distance, and string similarity techniques combined with regex functions to implement fuzzy matching for data deduplication and record linking. Here's an example query.
Describe how to use Snowflake's sampling and random functions.
I utilize sample, table sample, random, and uniform functions for data sampling, A or B testing, and generating random values for testing scenarios. These functions support various sampling methods and random distributions. Here's an example query.
How do you handle complex data transformations using Snowflake's analytical functions?
I combine multiple analytical functions like rank, dints_rank, %_rank, cum_dist with complex window specifications to perform sophisticated data analysis and ranking operations. Here's an example query.
Explain how to use Snowflake's clustering and optimization functions.
I leverage system $clustering underscore information, system $clustering underscore depth, and related system functions to analyze and optimize table clustering for better query performance. These functions help monitor clustering effectiveness. Here's an example query.
How do you implement data masking and privacy functions in Snowflake?
I use functions like mask, SHA2, hash combined with conditional logic to implement dynamic data masking based on user roles and access policies. This ensures sensitive data protection while maintaining data utility. Here's an example query.
Describe how to use Snowflake's geospatial functions for location analysis.
I utilize st_point, st_distance, st_within, st_area functions for geospatial analysis, including distance calculations, area measurements, and spatial relationship queries. These functions support standard geospatial operations. Here is an example query.
How do you handle error handling and exception management in Snowflake SQL?
I use try functions like try_cast, try_to_number, try_to_date for safe operations that return null on errors, combined with case statements and coalesce for comprehensive error handling strategies. Here's an example query.
Explain how to implement custom functions and stored procedures in Snowflake.
I create JavaScript UDFs and stored procedures for complex business logic that cannot be efficiently expressed in SQL, utilizing Snowflake's JavaScript runtime for custom transformations and calculations. Here's an example query.
How do you optimize query performance using Snowflake's function-based approaches?
I leverage functions like greatest, least for avoiding subqueries, use qualify for window function filtering, and implement function-based partitioning and clustering strategies to optimize query execution plans. Here's an example query.
And that's it for today's video. If you found this video helpful, please give it a thumbs up and share it with your friends. Don't forget to leave your comments below. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.